Hello and welcome. Recently, there was a warning of imminent flooding in Bauchi, Kaduna, Plateau, and Gombe states, owing to saturation of their soil moisture. Yes, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency NIMET has been on the business of letting Nigerians know about the dangers of Mother Nature time and again. It's one thing to give out the information, but again, it's another thing for the people who receive the warnings on the weather to be able to act accordingly to avoid adverse impact of the situation. Now, since its establishment in 2003 via an act of the National Assembly, we seek to find out what has been in the works presently, especially as it affects what is referred to as Aeronautical Meteorological Services of NIMET. The Director General of NIMET, Dr. Anthony Anuforum, is our guest this week, and he bears his mind on the activities of NIMET on issues such as its Weather Instrument Calibration Laboratory, the EMET initiative, and the agency's commercialization efforts to generate a revenue for itself. How safe really are we from our weather and climatic changes? Well, let's find out. I'm Ayotunde Balogun, and it's question time. All right, now let's quickly start off looking at the issue of meeting up with the statutory duty of your agency. How have you been able to deliver your mandate, in providing information for weather, information on weather and climate, for both the public and the private purposes?
Yeah, first of all, NIMET became a parastatal under the Federal Ministry of Aviation in 2003 when the NIMET Act was put in place. Prior to that, of course, it was a department under the ministry. If you look at the NIMET Establishment Act, the Section 7 of that Act clearly stipulates what our functions are. And of course, the bottom line is that we provide meteorological services for safety and sustainable development to aviation. As you know, aviation is internationally regulated. There is nothing, there's no local standard. Everything is defined and regulated by ICAO. So, and the part of ICAO document that deals with our services is ICAO Annex 3. So this is basically what we do here.
Now, Doctor, you've talked about looking at the issue of standards by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, which regulates the activities of NIMET. Now, from the year it was established, talking about the Act of NIMET in 2003, do you think that presently, as we have that Act in place now, can it still be improved upon?
Yes, definitely. As we always say here, and indeed my minister, Princess Odo, always says, excellence is not a destination. Efficiency is not a destination. So we are ever improving on what we do. Because the demands and challenges are dynamic. So a system must be responsive to the dynamics of the operating environment. So talking about the NIMET Act and the provisions in Section 7 of that Act, it's not casting steel. For me, I see it as a basic guideline, for you to do what to do. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't add, you shouldn't subtract. But what is important is that there's a minimum, irreducible minimum, that is, you must not fall below. So that is what that act must be seen as. So we keep improving in the quality of our services every day to make sure that we are responsive to the demands, to contemporary demands.
Now, Doctor, it's one thing to come out with predictions on weather and climate change and all of that, but I look at a country like Nigeria, a country as big as ours, and we talk of all these things, getting people to get themselves ready or alert whenever these disasters happen. But do you really think the people themselves are equipped, in dealing with some of these disasters that we're talking about, getting themselves prepared, when the Mother Nature decides to, get things really bad for so many of us.
Right. I think the most fundamental and the most potent being equipped, to use your own terminology, is having the information. So we give these alerts, we give this early warning to equip people to do what they say information is power. So if you are informed, do you need anybody to tell you to stay out of harm's way? It's a natural thing, but most of the time people ignore. The other one is we need to check our habits, building habits and so on by people. I agree, you may have cases where one or two unscrupulous things happen, people approving buildings on places they shouldn't approve. These are distortions in plans, but as for government having its plan, those plans are there. But to what extent do we comply with the restrictions?
Now, I've also warned pilots, on several thunderstorms, whenever they decide to fly in their planes. But I ask again, how well is the agency equipped, in dealing with this?
We are very well equipped, and that will probably take us to another aspect of this interview. This discussion, I would like us to highlight the quality of our services. How far are we? Well, to answer your question, we are equipped. But like I said, there is no destination. It is a continuous process. We are equipped. And then coming to how well our pilots respond, I want to say that we are happy that Nigerian pilots are well trained. They are highly professional people. Of course, there may be a few cases of people not being totally compliant, but we don't have a very widespread of that. But whenever we notice that, we raise alarm with the Civil Aviation Authority.
All right, well said, Doctor. But presently, how many airports in Nigeria are currently using the weather calibration instruments, and now that it's been in operation, or should I say fully operational?
Oh, all the airports.
All the airports.
Yeah, the way it goes is this. It's not that for every airport you have a calibration workshop. No, it doesn't happen like that anywhere in the world. You can't afford to do that. And in any case, it's not cost effective. We have the workshop here. When it is time for calibration, we pull out that equipment. It could be from Sokoto Airport, it could be from Port Harcourt Airport, and so on. We pull it out from the field, bring it back to base, make a contingency arrangement to cover the period when the calibration is taking place. After a couple of days, when we have gone through the calibration, we go and redeploy the equipment in the field. So all the airports are covered. All the airports are covered. And beyond that, we have other locations for where we take readings. We monitor the weather for issuance of accurate weather forecasts.
Are we saying that perhaps Nigeria should be able to make some revenue, from that? I mean, what picture are you trying to paint here?
Yeah, I'd like to refer you back to, if you're not familiar with it, the new vision and mission of the Ministry of Aviation, of the aviation sector. We have set out to provide world-class air transport system that is efficient, that is comfortable, that is safe, that is pivotal to economic development of the country, and self-sustaining. You cannot self-sustain if you depend entirely on government to give you money. So we are realigning ourselves to go from total dependence on government to at least self-dependence, and eventually being a net revenue earner for government. It's a difficult process, but we are not deterred. People often say that, well, you don't make money by weather service. I agree. Weather service essentially is part of what economy is called public good. But then, in the present reality, we have to have a balance between being public good and then being a drain. We don't want to be a drain to the government coffers. So we are determined to move in that direction. It's a difficult task, but we want to do it.
Now, so what can you tell us about the ISO 9001, which you mentioned a while ago, which gave the agency some kind of a global recognition? What's that about?
Yeah, I feel like wanting us, as a rock and announcing it to the world. Well, we have made a statement about that earlier, that we are now ISO 9001. A bit of the background. One, you know that everything we are doing in the aviation sector is implementation of Mr. President's transformation agenda. So when the minister came on board, we formulated the new vision and mission of the aviation sector. Part of it is to be a world-class, provider of air transport services. World-class. So if you must be world-class, everything about it must be world-class. Now, specifically in March this year, we are finally certified for our aeronautical meteorological services. Now, 4 of the international airports, because of course ICAO is concerned with international flight operations. 4 international airports, namely Abuja, Kano, Lagos, and Port Harcourt, were very, very strictly audited, and we are certified. And I give all the credit to my minister, because she's been so supportive and inspiring, and encourages us that there's nothing that you cannot achieve if you are determined. So that is what brought us here. So this is how we got the ISO 9001.
Doctor, now where do we go from here with this certification? I'm talking about the ISO 9001, which you say is a record in Africa. We were able to achieve it in 2 years. What's the next step?
First of all, we have the assurance, and I also want our flying public to know it, that we have the assurance and confidence that our processes and procedures, which translates into quality of the forecast we give, are in accordance with whatever standard anybody can aspire to achieve. So we are confident that we are doing the right thing. So government is doing what it should do. So the assurance is that the government has done what is humanly possible. NIMET is also doing what is humanly possible to minimize those risks by providing the accurate information, by providing the right equipment and instruments. So going back to the benefits of the ISO, we have assurance that we are doing the right thing. That's the short answer to that. In accordance with ICAO standards, in accordance with the vision of the ministry to be world-class, to provide safe and secure airspace over Nigeria.